Hello and welcome to my shop again. What I'm going to be doing today is making a specialized feature ring. Now when I say a specialized feature ring, I mean one that's not the normal designs. What I need to make is a ring with boats in it. So what I want to show is how I made the boat, but not necessarily that, but the fact that you can make most anything that you can draw with straight lines. I know some people can do it with curved lines, but I can't. It has to be straight lines for me to be able to do it. And I'm going to be making a 7-inch ring. So it's going to be big enough so I have to use 8 segments instead of my normal 16 because of the size of the segments. Now, when I do 16 rings, 16 segments per ring rather, I don't much worry about the curvature of the circle through it because it ain't that much. It don't have that big of an effect. But when I go to 8, I got to start considering the curve through it and make the segment wider in this direction. So that's one thing I got to take into consideration. So I cut some pretty wide stock for it. And I drew it out. What I'm going to make is just a simple little sailboat. Now the boat itself has only got 4 pieces, which is a sail, another sail, a mast, and the boat itself, which is only 4 pieces, but it's going to take 12 pieces to turn it into a segment. Now I drew this double size, and it's actually going to only be half this size. So I got all the stock cut for it. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut the sails out. Let me get this back out again. I'm going to cut the sails out, and I'm going to cut the piece of stock, background stock that goes with them. And I'm going to glue them together. And I'm going to cut the sails just a little bit big to give me some room to sand back. So I'm going to go ahead and get started doing that. One of the sails I'm going to cut at a 45-degree angle, and the other one's going to be a 60-degree angle. So I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting them up. I got all the sail pieces and the pieces of background they're glued to cut and ready to glue now. That's these pieces here, 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 and here. I got to glue them all up now. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on them. Put a little bit of glue on them. Do a rub joint. Wipe off some of the glue. And put them up against a piece to line them up and glue them down. I'm going to go ahead and glue all the rest of them up. I've got all these pieces glued up. They go like this eventually. And the next thing I got to do is glue these thin pieces underneath them. Then I can sand the ends to put the mast in between them. So first I got to put these 2 pieces in. I've got them all cut up, ready to go. I'm going to have to take these pieces and just lightly sand them, just clean them up, just barely. Just a light sanding. So I'm going to go ahead and sand these, and I'm going to glue these pieces on. Just like that. I've got these pieces glued on. I've got the bottom sanded flat and smooth. I got the pieces cut to go on the bottom now. On both sides, I got to glue them on. After I glue them on, that's this piece right here and right here. Then I can sand them back in order to glue the mast in. So I'm going to go ahead and glue them all up. Glue the pieces on the bottom. I got them all glued on now. And what I did is I drew a line from the bottom up real close to the top. I'm going to sand them back to where the white just touches the top of that line. That'll give me enough material later to sand the top and glue the top cap piece on. So I'm going to sand them all back and get them ready to put the mast on. I got them all sanded now. Brought them right up so the top of the sail's right at the top of that line. Now, what I'm going to do is glue them together with the piece that's going to be the mast. And I'm going to keep the bottom aligned. I'm going to push it up against a block to align it. So I'm going to glue them all together like that now. Pushing them up against a block to keep them aligned. These have all been sanded on the bottom now, smooth. And I've got these 3 pieces cut to go on now. I'm going to put all 3 pieces on at one time. Just like this. Going to glue them all on just like that at one time. After I get that done, I'll be ready to put the cap pieces on. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue these 3 pieces on each one. Alright, now I've got them glued up this far. I've got to flatten and smooth the bottoms, flatten and smooth the top. Then I've got to put both cap pieces on them after I sand them flat and smooth. And after that I'll be able to make them into segments. So the first thing I'm going to do is just flatten and smooth the bottoms and the tops. The tops and the bottoms have been sanded flat and smooth. Now I'm ready to glue the final 2 pieces on. Piece on the bottom and the top. I call them the cap pieces. Glue them on just like this. I'm going to go ahead and just start gluing them on. I got them all glued up now. What I'm going to have to do is clean them off and see what we got. So I'm going to take and just sand them down to see what we got. See if they're good enough to use. I got both the bottom and the top piece glued on. I got them all cleaned up now, and I guess that sort of looks like a boat. At least I hope it does. And I just did this one step at a time, sanding and gluing and sanding and gluing until I got them all put together. Again, like I said, I just drew it out with straight lines and glued the first pieces together, sanded the bottoms, glued the next pieces on, sanded the ends down, glued the next piece in, sanded the top and bottom, glued these 3 pieces in, and sanded the bottom again and put the caps on it. So it's just one little step at a time, and you can make almost anything that you can draw out with straight lines. I know some people do it with curved lines, but I can't do it with curved lines. I can drill a hole and put a plug in it, but that's about it. So next thing I got to do now is to turn these into a segmented ring. I'm going to have to make segments out of them. So I'm going to have to measure them, and I was shooting for a 7-inch circle and 8 segments. I might just go with a 7.5-inch circle and 16 segments, putting a really small segment between them. I think that might be what I'll do, and I'll show you how I do that. I got them all cleaned up now, pretty good. And what I was wanting to do was to make a 7-inch ring with them, with 8 segments. But after looking at them, if I cut them into 8 segments, it's going to be a 22.5-degree cut on the sides, and that's going to put it awful close to the pattern on the back. Not really going to leave enough wood between them. So what I think I'm going to do is to turn it into a 16-segment ring and put very small segments between them, like this right here, segment this size, very small, but it'll still be a 16-segment ring. All the segments will be cut at 11.25 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the edges of these to 11.25 degrees now. I got the segments cut now, and it's kind of a weird looking ring. It's 16 segments now, with 8 large segments and 8 really small segments, which makes it a 16 segment ring. Like I said, they're all cut at 11.25. Got a dry clamp. I'm going to have to adjust it just a little bit before I glue it up. So I'm going to take it to the sounder and adjust one of the pieces, get rid of a gap. And it come out to a little more than 7 inches like I wanted. So I'm going to have to adjust the turning, but that's no problem. Either adjust the diameter of the turning or the shape of it to get it out to the size of the ring. I got glue on it now. I'm going to have to clamp it up and then put the top clamp on it to keep it flat. Well, first I got to clamp it. These got nice wide segments. I can put the clamp right in the middle of the segment because it's wider than a clamp. Try and get it centered. And tighten it down a bit. Now then, I'll put the top clamp on it. That should be good. And go ahead and tighten it down. Take it off. Make sure it's pretty flat. The bottom, make make sure all the segments are right. None's upside down. No. Well, it looks good. I'm going to let it dry for 15 minutes. Well, here's the finished ring. It's supposed to be a boat, and I hope someone will think it looks like a boat. It's going to go into a beads of courage box, so maybe some little boy will think it looks like a boat. At least I hope so. It's a little bit larger than what I was shooting for, but that's okay. I'll just adjust the box to fit the ring. So that'll work out fine. And so we went from a drawing I made, all the pieces drawn in, to a finished ring. And the whole purpose of this is not really to show how to make a boat, but to show that anything just about that you can draw with straight lines, you can turn into a segmented ring. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come back and see my next video. I appreciate all the people that have subscribed and all the viewers I've got, and I thank you.